Does BMX as an industry and a whole care about chain alignment? That is the topic of discussion for today's video. We've got Victoria's bike here. I'm sitting on my new bike. We're gonna do a science experiment with her bike and take a look at the chain alignment on my new bike because I tried to make it as good as possible. It brings up a couple things when working on bikes and bottom brackets and bottom bracket widths and all of these different subjects that bring up the question of whether or not BMX as an industry cares about chain alignment. So I got my bike upside down here because it's easiest to see the chain alignment with it upside down. First, let's talk about what chain alignment even is. Very simply, the chain alignment is how straight your sprocket is to your driver and how straight the chain is. Ideally, you want these things to be on the same plane, and as you can see here when we look at it straight backward, it's pretty close. When you look at it from above where you can see the whole chain, you can see it's close, but it's not perfect. Now let's take a look at the spacers I have between my sprocket and my bearing. You can see there's not much there. And in all honesty, if I didn't have a 28 tooth sprocket, I wouldn't have to worry about spacers at all, and I would probably have like perfect chain alignment. But I have a 28 tooth sprocket, which a lot of people do these days, and you can see how close that actually is to hitting the frame. I could probably go closer, but I don't want to chance it. So it's about as close as I could get it. And to do that, there's a couple things that you have to take into consideration. But first, let's talk about why chain alignment matters. In a word, longevity, smoothness, and really that's about it. It makes your pedaling experience smoother to have proper chain alignment because, as you can imagine, if your sprocket is way off to the side of your driver, your chain's gonna have to like go over the teeth and wear them in over time. But at first it's gonna make noises, it's gonna make sounds while you're pedaling it. And if you have your chain trying to skip and pulling itself over the teeth, that's not gonna be a very smooth experience. And as you can imagine, if it has to like wear itself in, it's not going to have the longevity that it would if it was properly aligned. So the smoothness and the longevity of how long your drivetrain will last with your chain, sweat bees, your driver, and your sprocket are what chain alignment have to do with. Now, a lot of people out there might not care about this whatsoever, and that's why the question comes up. Does BMX as an industry care about this? And this is where Victoria's bike comes into play. Because if we take a look at the spacers that I have on my spindle, you can see we've got one Odyssey branded cone spacer. And then on this side, there is no cone spacer because it's just crank spacers, just like these two right here. There's no room for another branded cone spacer, and that is where this bike comes into play because the setup I have on here, I'm not gonna lie, I put it like this for this video, but it is so close to what it was. Basically, it is like 0.5 millimeter off on the drive side, and then the non-drive side doesn't really matter in this case. But let's take a look at the spacers we have on this spindle. We've got two profile branded cone spacers, meaning these are what come with a profile bottom bracket kit. This is what they want you to put on there, and this is what is made to go on your bike. Now, I don't know if Sunday's frames have wider bottom brackets than the rest of the BMX industry, and this is what keeps bringing up the question, does the industry care about chain alignment or what? But when we look at the chain alignment on this bike, you will see it's pretty evident. You can see that it is making a hard angle from the sprocket to the driver. We'll come down here, get this straight on view. You can see how far off that is. You can see that this sprocket would pretty much need to be against the bottom bracket in order to have proper chain alignment. So this is what comes with a bottom bracket kit, and this is no shade of profile whatsoever. I'm gonna interrupt myself here real quick because it just occurred to me that maybe profile isn't including both of those cone spacers with the intent for one to go on either side. Maybe they're both supposed to be non-drive side cone spacers, and I'm just an idiot who thought that they were supposed to go on either side. That is entirely possible, and that could be the case for all BMX bottom brackets because they all come with the cone spacers and they all come with the little spacers as well. So my conclusion here at the end of the video that you're about to see, as well as my proposed solution for this, do still make sense, but it totally does also make sense that neither of these spacers could be intended for the drive side. So let's continue with the video. And it's entirely possible that Sunday has wider bottom bracket tubes than most other frames that are available. That might be why when you get an Odyssey bottom bracket, it only comes with the non-drive side cone spacer, because I'm sure they intend for you to put a different spacer like these on the inside there in order to get better chain alignment. So maybe profiles are made for skinnier bottom bracket tubes, but that information isn't exactly easy to find online, which leads me to believe that it's something that BMX just doesn't really care about. I even asked Truman at Park Tool from the Park Tool videos, which shout out to Park Tool, about chain alignment. He gave me the rundown of why it's important, and he also said that he cared about it on his race BMX bike, but didn't pay too much attention to it on his street BMX bike. So if somebody at Park Tool didn't pay a lot of attention to it, it might be understandable that BMX as a whole doesn't pay attention to it. So let me know, guys, if you pay attention to your chain alignment in the comments down below. But let's do a little experiment here, because why not? So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to take off the profile spacer and we're gonna throw on some of these here little spacers and see if we can make it a little bit better and kind of illustrate the difference from one to the other. So right now, this is with the profile spacer in, and the next shot will be this exact shot, but with the smaller spacers in. Okay, so I lied. The next shot is actually with no spacers whatsoever there, and as you can see, the chain alignment might even actually be a little too far this way this time. Let's come down here and get a better look, lining up the bottom bracket with the driver. It's pretty dang close. So we're gonna come back up here, and the next shot we're gonna do is we're gonna put in a spacer in there, because right now this cannot rotate and it's actually coming in contact with the frame right here, as you can see. So the next shot will be with enough spacers to let it rotate. Okay, here we are. We have enough spacers in there for the cranks to rotate and the sprocket to not hit the frame. And as you can see, the chain alignment is pretty good now. Take a look at it from here. Sprocket and driver line up very well. And the spacer that I have in there is literally one that is about just a little bit bigger than the one that I have in my hand right here. And you can see when we rotate this, it is close. It is very close. But it does rotate. The chain alignment is better. So I'm wondering if all BMX companies that have bottom brackets should stop including the non-drive side cone spacer in there entirely, because it appears that we don't need it for proper chain alignment. And if you want to get people to do it correctly without having to tell them and show them and try to get the point across somehow, you just stop including the thing that makes your chain alignment wrong in all bottom brackets. You save money on that thing, and everybody ends up with proper chain alignment whether or not they care about it. So this has been an interesting conversation and discussion and science experiment, and I hope that you guys found it interesting as well. And I want to know if you guys care about chain alignment, you care how long your sprockets last, you bash them anyways, and it really doesn't matter anyways because you bend it and your driver's already worn because you've been riding it for 15 years, or your chain's super old because you've been waiting on the keychain to come back and Odyssey just won't make it. You've been riding the same one for 10 years. I don't know. Let me know your guys' thoughts on this. I thought it was an interesting conversation to have. And I feel that as a whole, BMX probably doesn't care too much about chain alignment, because in the grand scheme of things, we're replacing our sprockets, our chains, potentially our drivers, more often than other types of bicycling anyways, to the point where it doesn't really matter as much for us. So that's my conclusion. Hope you found it interesting. If you're new here or you haven't yet, consider hitting the subscribe button down below so we can see you tomorrow for another video. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.